let's get this.
You
Let's
look
make
cute
this.
like background.
Let's make this official. So viewers, welcome to the sideshow event tonight. This is Behind the Curtain. And at first, before we get going, I want to thank Josh and Sunita. Josh contacted me in July on Facebook Messenger, which I don't use, to ask me to host something for some event that hadn't yet started, and turn this thing into sort of the ultimate side project, a side project about side projects. So my Creative Circus hat off to you, Josh and Sunita, for making this happen. Congratulations. And thank you for including me. I am speaking to you from my well-worn office in Atlanta, Georgia. My side project for almost 14 years has been my podcast. I can talk about that if it works itself into the conversation. But first, let me introduce our panel. Starting off with Lauren Ranke. She is Director of Creative Talent at Wieden and Kennedy. She's worked there for on and off for 20 years. For over a decade, she's been discovering and nurturing talent for iconic brands at the world's best creative agency. Logging in tonight from Portland, Oregon. Say hello, Lauren Ranke.
Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. This is literally my favorite topic. So this is going to be super fun.
Well, what are the odds that this is your favorite topic?
It really is.
All right. Guillermo Perez is Director of Creative Recruitment at McCann Worldgroup. That means he recruits talent across the McCann Worldgroup network of agencies all over the world. So yeah, he has seen some stuff. He's based in New York City, but he's talking to us tonight from San Francisco. This is Guillermo Perez.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. Good to be here. Good to be on this coast too. So I'll have some sun. I won't need lights tonight.
Awesome. Xanthe Wells, Senior Director and Global ECD at Google. She oversees work for Google Devices and Services. She is a 2019 Ad Age Woman to Watch. She has won numerous Cannes Lion and One Show pencils and has spoken at or judged every major award show you've ever heard of. Logging in from Northern California, Xanthe Wells.
I don't know that I should be judging all those shows, but nice to be here. In fact, Lauren actually was the first person who actually asked me to do a side project as part of my entrance exam to Wieden and Kennedy. So that kicked off a long meandering road, which I'm sure we'll get into, but I'm really happy to be with all these guys.
Awesome. All right. And finally, we have Blaine, Executive Creative Director at ChowNow, is creative leader in the areas of digital experience, branding, moving image, social media marketing, content creation, and spatial design. Before I let Ez say hello, allow me to paste some of his awards into the chat. Let me see if I can get this to work. Nope, it's not working. I have to share a screen to do that because that didn't work. And you know what? Let me just say this. His awards take up 2 complete pages of a PDF. You can check it out at Ez's website. So now from Los Angeles by way of North London, actually Benwell Road in Highbury, this is Ez Blaine.
Hello, everyone. I don't know why, Dan, you made me go after Xanthe because she's an absolute legend. But yes, this is, I love this, and I'm definitely a hustler. I was born in Hackney, and so I think it's in my blood to have side projects. So this is spot on as a subject. So yeah, nice to meet everyone.
Very cool. All right, so let's start off this conversation defining, so those of you who are paying attention and watching this tonight, the 4 of us chatted early last week, and then we had an email conversation going on, and the email kind of meandered into what's the difference between a side project and a side hustle. So let's start off kind of defining that. So this event is called the Sideshow, and one of the competition categories is business product, and some of our panels focus on those as well. So for example, Mount Freelance is doing a seminar on how to create a side business. Josh, one of the founders, said, quote, "I think all side hustles are side projects, but not all side projects are side hustles. You can create something you care about that's expressive, but also make money from it." So what's the difference? And is a distinction relevant? And yes, we'll get into talking about any side projects you have, but I want to start with Guillermo. So when we had this conversation in email, you said that there's a distinct difference. So does one carry more weight than the other, and in what context?
And I did kind of drop that bomb, but I was really curious because, I think in the world of talent, which is my focus. And, we're reviewing books and portfolios. We're ultimately looking for expressions of craft and creativity. And I think sometimes those are expressed in side projects where you're the only stakeholder. And the difference for me is that at some point, if you're monetizing something, it's a business. And sometimes that can either be a distraction or a reason one would want to leave the business. I understand that marketing, advertising is not for everyone. And some people look at it as a stepping stone to do what they're really passionate about. And it is a discussion we'll have sometimes if someone's fully invested in what we're doing, or if we're just, their daytime job so they can get to their side hustle, which, I think they both hold value. They're both equally creative usually, but, some people's side hustle can be catering and because they're just love cooking. And sometimes that can be a little bit distractful from like the main hustle. But sometimes the side hustle actually becomes the main hustle. And I know plenty of creatives who've gone on to do their side hustle as their full-time job.
Yeah, I've heard someone once say that the thing that you do when you're not working that you love to do is what you ultimately should be doing. So, and I've also often heard that side hustles are the thing that creatives often need to scratch that creative itch when their job doesn't provide that. Do you guys have anything to add to what Guillermo and I are talking about? Anyone?
Yeah, I think it's okay. Go, Lauren.
Well, I mean, I feel like client work obscures your real voice. I mean, it's like a filmy overlay that doesn't allow someone's true creative voice to come through. And that's fine. Like, that's one version of who you are, but really the person we're interested in is who you really are. And that's what, I mean, anytime there isn't something in someone's book that shows their true voice and it's all client work, the creative directors at Wieden are like, I don't know what to think of them. Like, who are they? And so, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like sometimes people are too well behaved, they get too into like doing the business. And, we want to know, what's your weird side?
It's interesting to me, as I'm going to get to you in a second, hold that thought. Wieden and Kennedy, I've said to students for years, is the first agency that I know of that would ask, well, what else you got? Yeah, I see you did this stuff, but what else you got going on? And to the point now where in a school, I feel like sometimes people create side projects to check that box. That becomes one more of a list of boxes to check. It's like, well, here's my thing I did that was the extra. So it does, and I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that client work obscures the voice. I think that's a really accurate thing. That's a really good observation. So, Ez, what were you going to say?
No, I think Lauren's spot on. I never actually hit Lauren up. I mean, I wanted to many times to do, but I couldn't do Portland because it's too much like London. So, but anyway, I mean, I think for me, it's like if you're not continuously working on who you are and what you're doing and being passionate about your craft and then showcasing that, I don't know if, to me, from a person that looks at portfolios all the time and tries to build teams, it becomes about, are you passionate about this craft that you say you are about, right? So if you're into making beats, you should be making beats all the flipping time. You should have a whole bunch. You should send me your SoundCloud and it's got 1 million beats on it. Same thing about the work. Like if you're into ads, you should just be making them. If you're into visuals, you should have a whole bunch of like visuals you're exploring and different ideas. And if you're into the ad game and love ads, you should just have random shit that you could be making ads for. And I think it's why I think it's super important to have these kind of side products going and it's showcasing them, is that it does, to Lauren's point, give you that well-rounded understanding of, to people, who you are. And so you're not just a logo, you're a POV. And I think that's super important as you go into the industry. You need that POV. Every time, everyone's going to be just passing you over if you don't have a strong kind of like aesthetic or a POV, or you're not adding. We've got the industry is full of people that are just adding. The ones that rise to the top are the people that they're a little bit wonky personally, in my opinion. But they add to the noise and they go above it. So I think that starts with side projects.
So Guillermo, does a side project carry more or different weight than a side hustle? If I have something that's completely unrelated, what if it is a catering business or something else? And Xanthe, we're going to get to you. We're going to get to you. Do they mean different things to a recruiter?
To me, they do, and they can. It's not necessarily a negative, but you know, I think again, trying to monetize something, it just gets a little weird. And we touched about this with the email. It can be distracting while incredibly fulfilling, I feel, for the person, and also in different stages in your career. You know, I think I made a comment to Lauren on another chain. It's like, you know, we're tied to clients. We have clients who are paying for our services. And sometimes I think we've run into situations where those side passions cut into a client's need. I have to leave now because I actually booked a shoot and I'm shooting people. But we're at crunch time and we're about to pitch tomorrow. It's your idea. This is your work, and it's about seeing it through. And those are unique instances where that happens, and that goes down to maybe the core of what the person is. And I wouldn't call that negative. I mean, they're bringing value, they have a different skill set, but they're using it so much that it's now taking away from what we thought was their main priority.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of just a little bit of the distinction I was trying to make.
Yeah, you can't ask that on an interview either. Like, okay, so how much time are you going to spend on that little photo side job you got or the catering job? That's interesting, very interesting. So, Lauren, you said that the less pressure on a person's side projects to make money, the better. So you did kind of hit on that. You said to me, I'm quoting you, to me, it's about prolific output and craft above all else. We prefer to see evidence of a person's creative soul beyond the constraints of client work. So this is one of my later questions that I'm going to throw out now. So does the side hustle have to connect to the person's core competency? Does it need to translate to the job? So for me, would it be better in my writer's book to have some writing I've done or music I've written, something that can translate to client work?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for us, we don't care if it's a hustle that you're making money from or not, or if it connects to your core competency. In fact, it's almost better if it doesn't, because it shows that you're an experimenter. You know, like if you're a writer that has like tons of illustrations and tons of photography, like that's super cool. That means that you're experimenting. And especially right now, I think that multidisciplinary talent is becoming all the more valuable. And I am seeing a lot of writers that are also doing animations and design. And that's like gold. I mean, that just means you're ambidextrous and you can flex. So no, it absolutely doesn't need to connect to your core competency. And it's almost better if it doesn't. But one thing I will say, writing is, I think, like the future of everything. Like, I think it's so important. And I feel like I've really struggled to find writers that write or show their writing very well. I think it's like, these are my ideas. And it's just like a thing that they did because it was a, student project. I think it's really important for writers to push themselves to write Medium articles, to get into, try to get into McSweeney's, make little comics, like just show like words. Like there's a crazy lack of words in a lot of writer portfolios. And so that is something that I think people need to supplement with their actions, like right on the side.
Okay, maybe we pause this panel for a second so I can ask this question, which is off topic completely, but the clients are doing things where writers have to use words?
Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
Sure.
All right. Because I think
I think David Colbett's, I don't know if you know David Colbett's, he's the ECD at Drug of London. He says that Instagram is a writer's medium. I totally agree with him. I mean, look, if you can sell it, there's writing in everything. Okay. There's a voice in everything, isn't Definitely. There? If there isn't, yeah. It's like, I don't know, that's half the battle, I think.
All right, Xanthe. To remind everyone, you're a global ECD at Google with a side hustle the side hustle yourself. You told me that you've never been interested in doing more expressive side. This is interesting because you told me you've never been interested in doing a more expressive side project like drawing or painting, because you've always found you want to exercise a different muscle, the business side of creative, when you're doing side projects. And then you said, because your side project is a business, it falls into the side hustle category. So talk about what muscle that stretches for you, what itch that scratches, and what you've gotten out of doing things that are not your core competency.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I actually, when Lauren, when I was interviewing at Wieden years ago, probably 10 years ago, and she asked me, what else you got? Because, like they're looking for what is your soul outside of work? And quite honestly, I felt really put on the spot because I wasn't at a point. I'd grown up as a painter, illustrator. I'd done tons of drawing. My house is covered with paintings that I've done. But I didn't feel like sharing that necessarily. And I felt like it was disingenuous to go and do something to get a job at Wieden, so that kind of made me sort of stop in my tracks. And I think, we mutually went other ways, but it's always stuck with me actually, because I think it's such an important thing. And I think they're absolutely right in looking for that. I think for me, it was going and starting businesses that I found more interesting than creative expression in the way that I do it every day, which is through design and art direction. And I ended up starting a company. I just had a baby, my second baby, and I was kind of debating the whole industry and going, what do I do? This is not fun and it's kind of boring. And I don't know, I've reached some place where I'm not that happy. And I met a manufacturer who did third-party fills. So spray can, any kind of spray, anything this guy makes, from cooking oil to graffiti remover to paint. And I met with him, and it was like, I could be P&G if I could get someone to brand all these things I can make. And so I was like, oh my God, mind blown. Like, I have to do this. And so I worked with a couple other people, and I spent about 4 weeks pitching 12 brands, 3 of which are in market now. So we have a cleaning product called Breathe. It's sold at Home Depot. It's making me no money. I'm not rich. But I've got a sunscreen and a cooking oil. So the package design on all of them are okay, and they're not part of my portfolio for that reason, because, on the inventing side of a brand, that taught me so much, because all of a sudden you have to sell on the shelf, and you don't get as much creative license as I'd had in my career. So it was this amazing window into, oh, this has to work. And when I do Instagram and I manage our social feeds, I'm like, I need this post to travel. I need it to work. So I got the urgency that I think as you move up in the industry, you kind of sort of lose touch with a little bit. And that put me smack dab in the middle of the hustle of the side project, side hustle. So it's been a meandering road, but something that I started to think about is lately I've been making wreaths all the time. It's the holidays and these corny little wreaths I'm making. And I'm like, that's a side project. It's so uncool and so lame that I would never send it to Wieden, And so I guess I kind of wonder what's cool enough or good enough to be seen by a recruiter. And, it's kind of Guillermo and Lauren, what in your mind is oh my God, I can't believe they did that. We would never consider them. That's so nerdy, but we love their portfolio. I'm curious, how you guys judge that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in and look, Wieden might be different. And I'm representing what I know Wieden looks for, but if there's I always think of it like a portal, give us a little thing to click on in your portfolio. And it's just it could be anything. It could be anything. It could be doodles. It could be wreaths. It could, to me, Xanthe, oh my God, look, she totally developed and marketed a product, and she makes wreaths. That's so cool. To me, seeing that somebody has all of those aspects is great. That just shows that you have the drive, the prolificness, the creative soul to go and make a bunch of stuff.
That's cool.
And I think yes to all of it.
Yay.
And same thing, it doesn't have to be overly cool, at McCann, because that's, where I'm at and the type of work. that we do, it's, you know, I'm not just looking at books, you know, really what we want is we want to hire a whole person. You know, our people move frequently and we're working on so many different brands, and it's important that we can meet someone and know what they're about, because so much of what we do there is about what Lauren just said, which brought me here, is soul, and finding the soul of what that is. So, you know, we're into corny too. We have some stitchers stitching. I mean, look, I'm making little mask, you know,
cool.
holders.
Lanyards?
You know, it is. So, yeah. So just to like pass the time. So I think, you know, it's not necessarily being cool, but it's like what it tells us about you and what we hope that says about the work that you would bring to.
I'm curious about something. I'm curious about, because Xanthe, when I hear you talk, it sounds to me, it seems like if I'm telling the story, you've built this construct that allows you to be a designer and a marketer and all these things. But the framework of like sprays, like I'm interested in the genesis and the jump. Like, what was it that got you excited about even that business? Because I think this is something I talk about a lot. And you guys, please tell me if I'm doing this right as a teacher and a mentor. I think that once you enter this career, whether you're in ad school or whether you are an undergrad or whether you're starting off as a junior, you signed an unwritten deal with the devil where you can no longer use the word should. You can never say, oh, I should start making masks. No, you have to start making those things now. But that jump of sucking at it or failing at it or whatever is the thing I think that stops people, or they're distracted by whatever's on their desk in front of them or whatever they have to take care of. So in that moment, when you decided to take that jump, that sort of genesis of it, what was the impetus of it for you? What was it? Was it the second child? Was this insurance? Was this a safety net for a livelihood? Was it something more? What was it? What was going on in your mind psychologically at that moment?
Fear. No, honestly, I think I just quit my job. We'd sold an agency, a small agency that I ran in LA. And I walked away from a giant earnout and I said, fuck this, I'm not doing it. And I left the agency and I bought a big house, thinking that I'd get an earnout, and I didn't have that. So I had a mortgage payment. And then I met this guy, and I was like, okay, this could be something. Like, this could be a future. And I was at this point where I still love advertising, but I was just scared, you know, like, how am I going to support my family? I'm the breadwinner. You know, my husband's not really working. Like, what are we going to do? And I thought, okay, this could be something where I'm doing the advertising, I'm designing the products, I'm building the brand, and I've never done this. And this seems really interesting. So there was like no choice but yes. Like, yeah. Fear was sort of the spark, but then once I got going, I'm like, this is so cool. And I was obsessed, and I did it. I am still doing it, but you know, it's 5 years later.
That's really interesting to me. And I'm going to ask you a question in a second, Ez, but this reminds me of something Mike Byrne once said. So Mike Byrne is the founder of Anomaly, and he was speaking to our students once, and he said, know that you are the creative force. An agency doesn't take care of you. You are the creative force. And Guillermo had just said that our people move, people switch jobs inside agencies. Things change, and to have that empowerment to make something is really, really important for young people to understand that they have that power. So Ez, what do you do on the side to scratch the itch? Do you have anything that you've done on this? Or are you just too damn busy? If you want it.
What don't I do, Dan? It's probably the best answer. I've always been like a massive mentor, not as good as yourself, but I like to help, and there's a lot of people that just need pushing or guidance at certain times, and I do that a lot. And so that kind of one of the biggest things I'm doing right now is I set up this thing called One School along with Oriole Lions and the One Club.
Yeah, I didn't know you were involved. I should know that. It's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm doing the West Coast. I'm opening the West Coast class, and so that was like all of those things, being able to mentor, teach, and get a whole 15 Black creatives into the industry is it's so rewarding across the board for me. And so it's like it's a beautiful manifestation of that side of me being you know, that mentor kind of itch for me. But then, you know, also at the top of the about 5 months ago, you know, I got contacted by these really great guys from New York Times, and they've got a project called Last Shot Taken, and I got involved with them, and it was about, you know, George Floyd happened, and you know all of those monumental moments, and as a Black man, as a Black creative, as a Black dad, you know, you see yourself when that picture comes up in the media, and that's just a thing that just resonates. And so that was just something we all connected on, and we put this project out. And so, yeah, I'm constantly doing it, man. I'm constantly working on stuff. And I think for me, it's, it just I see it as a full circle. So the side projects kind of fuel what I do at work, and then they keep me busy, focusing, and keep my mind kind of varied, because I probably got ADHD undetected, and I just need it. I need that kind of like stimulus, and I'm never not working as a creative. And that's what I tell people, mentors, is like, this is not a 9 to 5. This is not a vocate, like, turn this off. You're constantly doing it. You're watching something. You should be waiting until the credits come and figuring out who shot it, who wrote it, going to, you know, research them. You know, if any ideas come up, sketch in, get an iPad, get some. I've got a ton of shit on my desk, which is just random ideas. So I think, to me, this whole side hustle thing is super, super important.
Yeah, for sure. So what are some, I guess this may be for Guillermo and Lauren, but what are some of the side projects or noteworthy things that you've seen from books that have come across? And you've already answered the question. I know Lauren answered the question that you do look for that at Wieden. Does McCann, Guillermo, do you look in a portfolio? And let me just ask this a different way. When you open up a link to a portfolio and you see the nav at the top of the screen, what are you clicking on first? Are you going straight to the work? Are you going to the about, the extra? How do you look at a portfolio, and how much do you look for that extra thing? And if so, do you look at it first?
I think it depends on what I'm looking for and the level and what I'm needing at the moment. Usually I kind of have an idea of like who I'm looking at, but if it's a new book and I haven't seen it, I'm usually going to the about section first. I want to know who the person is. It's just kind of how I operate. And when you did bring up that question about like your favorite side projects, it just, it was hard for me to think of anything right off the, I mean, I thought I would know something as soon as you asked, but for me, for my career, I haven't been at an agency for 25 years. I wish that was like something that was possible all the time, but I'm also kind of like a fluke. I'm one of like the very few people of color or guys that I see when I go to these recruiting things. So I've had to have a little bit more movement. But with that, it's kind of defined on how I look at a portfolio. I can't really have a favorite. My responsibility and what I've trained myself to do is kind of stay really open and kind of become a chameleon to what my creative directors or CCOs are looking for, and getting to understand them well. So for us, you know, I think you asked me for two things. And I think I can explain this a little bit. I've worked at an agency in the past where the big thing, like the gotcha question for the CCO, what he wanted to see, what he loved, were inventions. Did you invent something? That was important to him for a creative. Are you an inventor? Are you, can you think business? Can you change business for a client with your thinking? And it didn't have to be a product. He just wanted to know that you invented something. You made something. You had like an imaginary friend that you made into a book, or, you know, just things like that. And we did have a team that like invented an actual product. And at the time it was kind of like something that we were all like, oh yeah, we need that. It was just a charger that you could share your phone's power with someone else's phone. I got 50%, you need 10%, I'm gonna give it to you. And it didn't exist, but it was like an invention, and it really charmed him. He was really into it, and it was something that he really liked. So that stuck out to me, because to me, I was like, oh, that's fine. But for other people, that really resonated. But now, now in my career at McCann, working across all these different offices with very talented people that are all looking for different things, one thing that does stay, and this kind of trickles down from Rob Riley, is having soul and having meaning. He really believes that our work should have meaning. And usually when I find that meaning, it's not necessarily in the work all the time, especially for younger, newer talent, not necessarily younger, but newer talent. We find that meaning, that soul, that character in a side project. And I would say one of those side projects that sticks out more recently is kind of like this little LinkedIn hack called Coffee. It stuck out to me just as a recruiter because it's something that I've felt. We actually have LinkedIn as a client, and I've always said it's hard for me to self-identify in a way that allows people to know that I'm here for them, I'm open to them, I want to help them, I want to be a sounding board. I kind of try to be, I kind of am more of like a behind the scenes type person. I'm not out there. I don't do a lot of these panels because I feel like that allows me to just to do a little bit more behind the scenes and helping people and coaching. And right now my side project is really helping other people find jobs, even if I can't hire them, or giving them some career guidance or negotiating their offers for them. But Coffee really struck with me. And I wrote her right away telling her like, this is great because it's just so simple. And it's just a little tiny thing that you can add that allows people to opt in, but feel very, very seen. And that really resonated with us and with a lot of people at the agency, apart from her work. And those are the kind of things I think tell us what someone's thinking is going to be and how our clients could benefit from that kind of soul that they have.
It's an amazing thing, Coffee. So for those of you who don't know what that is, if you're watching this, it's basically the same way the hashtag works on Twitter. It's a way to sort people on LinkedIn, and it's C0FF3E or E3, I forget which. And it lists it as a job on LinkedIn, but it's for creatives of color, or I guess professionals of color. It's a really, really cool thing. So I shouldn't have said favorite side projects. I meant noteworthy. But Lauren, do you have any thoughts to add to how you look at projects and any that have stood out?
Yeah, I mean, first thing I look at in a book is the about me. And then I usually kind of let it hit me, take in whatever it is, and then quickly go to the about me. I've been doing this a while, so I'm pretty quick. And I click on everything really quickly, but I do look for like, where's that thing at the end that says, this is my personal stuff, you know? I don't want to dominate the panel, but I do feel like I could give like a million examples, and I'm going to just throw out a few names of portfolios that I think the attendees might learn from if they went and checked out these portfolios, because these are some people that we've hired at Wieden and Kennedy solely because they had only personal work that we loved. So two people recently that didn't even come from the ad world or go to ad school. One is a woman named Jenny Vu. You can Google her, JENMYVU. She's a cartoonist and a writer, and she writes comics. She also does imaginary characters that she acts out on her like Instagram, and you'll know as soon as you click on her portfolio, it's all personality, it's all writing. And she's that ambidextrous, like, she can design and write, but she clearly has a voice. She's hilarious. So she was someone. Another one that is just absolutely phenomenal is this woman named Deandra Stokes, Stokes. Her whole book was just ideas that she did in school, like art projects. And they kind of reminded me of, how you shop for funny things at Urban Outfitters and they all have an idea behind them. I was like, I feel like you could find all this stuff at Urban Outfitters. So she's really into sex positive stuff. So she came up with this spin on the Chutes and Ladders board game, but it was basically like a board game all about how to reach an orgasm. But it was like a spin-off of the Chutes and Ladders game, which is super funny. She also did these STD buddies, which were basically these little sculptures of like personified syphilis and herpes and like all these STDs, but she made them like really cute. It was like totally like weird and like so cool. She made these mirrors. One was a Prince mirror and one was a Sade mirror. So if you looked in the mirror, you could like align yourself with like Prince's eyes and like merge with him in your soul, which is like
cool.
a huge Prince fan. Like I was like, I want that mirror. I mean, she had just tons of stuff like that. She had all these doodles that basically were like lovely to look at, you know? So yeah, Deandra was great. Another one is Azad Ebedakichi. He is basically a claymation artist that we actually hired him as a writer. And his Instagram is it's either AZXD or AXZD. I get it mixed up, but he's got tons of followers, and he's a huge sports fan. And what he does is he makes these insane like claymation little scenes after like with all like sports people, like basically like famous people in sports.
Does it do it animates a famous play or something like the Lego thing?
Thank you for putting those books there. Yeah, well, no, actually what he does is he creates like a scenario where basically you'll have like an athlete talking about a play or talking about like maybe some kind of like thing that happened during a game, but they're hilarious. And so it was like this guy can write scripts. And so he didn't work in advertising like at all. He's just a claymation guy, and you know, we ended up hiring him. He's been great.
That was my question. Hold on, before you go on, that he's been great comment.
Yeah.
So what's the batting average on the he's been great?
So I think that, I mean, here's the thing. You're a junior all the way up until you're a junior when you don't know what the job is, right? Like once you figure out like, oh, I know what the job is, maybe you're not even doing it well, you're a junior. And I would say that like a lot of these folks, they'll be junior hires for like a year. Like they're having to learn the vocabulary. They're having to like, and it is work for us. Like it's like extra labor for the creative directors to like train them up for sure. And so you can only have so many of those. Like, but at the same time, the batting average is like 100% eventually. Like
That's
I don't
awesome.
feel like we've ever hired someone like that we're like, that was a mistake. Like it just doesn't, I don't know. Like, I think that there's something to do with, I mean, as when you were talking earlier about like, I have to create, I'm like, that's like, I mean, that's a great creative right there. So like, to me, it's like evidence that you're that person that like has to make something. That means you belong in this business. So I don't know. I mean, so the batting average is pretty good. There are, however, lots of creatives who are senior and classically trained, people who went to VCU, BYU, all the schools, who also have really amazing side projects that we love. Like we just hired John Barco. He has tons of stuff. He worked with a group of ad guys to put together, he did a campaign to get Ice Cube lyrics on a Goodyear blimp. It's a super rad thing that he did. He kind of came up with John Barco and a few of his other ad buddies, which I think is super cool when people come together and collaborate side projects. Like they've come up with all these weird little stunts and just like kind of fucking with like things like using their advertising brain to like do art projects basically that are disruptive or like almost like protests or, you know, like that's super cool. And the Goodyear blimp thing, they ended up raising like $25,000 for a charity doing it. So it's that, I mean, it's like so cool when people do that stuff. So I could go on and on. I don't want to dominate, but like there's so many cool like side projects out there that just, I mean, it's the reason why I eventually like forced myself to start painting. And like, that's one of the hardest things about my job is I am so inspired by people all the time that I'm like, oh God, I have to learn After Effects. Like, I have to learn how to draw. Like, I need to be a better writer because I'm so inspired by people. Like, there's so many cool people out there doing so many cool things. Like, Xanthe, I would probably start making wreaths. Like, my poor husband is just like, you have so many little things that you try all the time. I'm like, it's because it's all coming at me all the time. Like, so many, it's great.
Man,
it's like,
I think, sorry, Dan, I don't know if you were trying to move on, but I just think to that point, I believe the creativity is a muscle, and you've got to be kind of continuously using it. And so, especially as you get older, like myself, I'm 38 and I've got kids and I've got bills and I've got, houses and shit. So it's like, if I let all of that be the 100% of me, then I lose a little bit of the kind of the energy and the fire in the oven. So that's another part. And this is probably not for the young'uns coming into the game, but it's more for the people that are in the mid careers. It's like, if you've got to keep doing it, because life will come at you and just knock you over, but you can be a 60-year-old, 50-year-old, 100-year-old badass creative. Like, I think our industry can, it's the beauty of our industry, you can keep going. As long as you know what the fuck you're doing and you're saying, then sorry, I don't know if we would like to swear on this.
yeah,
No,
I'm an Englishman, that's going to happen. Apologies. But you know what I mean? I think that's super important. That's why I think you just got to keep doing it. You got to be about it.
It's totally true. I totally agree with the muscle thing. It doesn't matter how old you are too. Like, I'm a late bloomer. I'm pushing 50 in 2 years now. And I'm just learning this stuff. Like, I'm just learning how to paint. And it feels like a whole new world has opened up to me.
So this is off topic, but I'm going to share my favorite quote my mother ever said to me. So my mother, loved my mom, went back to get a second master's in fine art when she was 70 years old. And
wow.
One of her students was in her 20s. And the student says to my mom, you can see the look in her face. She figures it out. She says to my mom, oh my God, when you graduate, you're going to be 72. And my mom says to the student, well, I'm going to be 72 anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Why should I not be creating?
Totally. It's so brilliant.
It's so great. So
brilliant. That is so brilliant.
There is a question. We have an official question from the Q&A. So this is how can non-creatives communicate that they collaborate with creatives effectively? What tools can we learn to be great teammates and impress agencies? Guillermo, do you recruit not every role or just creatives?
Just creatives. I mean, I've had to recruit some other things, but I'll preface, like, I've had to. So my sweet spot is creatives. But I think collaboration, I think that's, easy to share. I mean, sometimes you don't necessarily have a portfolio, but you have an interview. And I think interviews themselves are a tool. I mean, there's people who just interview incredibly well, but that's your time. And I always like to coach people and tell them that that's your time. You need to be everything you are and everything you want to be in those 30 minutes. And especially if you want it the most. So I think that's really a great opportunity to share those things. And it's where I share things, I was a dancer for 25 years. I guess technically I'm still a dancer because I could, but that's something that I wouldn't share. It's not on my resume. It's not something that goes anywhere. But like, if you spend enough time with me in an interview, or if you're scrolling through my Instagram, it eventually pops up. My mom was a dance teacher, but she still is for almost her entire life. So I think that that's your opportunity to surprise people and tell them what else you have that you can bring and what else you are.
Mm. I think also non-creatives that love creative, that are passionate about it and excited about it and can talk about it and look at awards books or award shows and love great work and know great work and are willing to fight for great work. It's a great question. It's on my podcast, I always ask non-creatives, like, what makes a great collaboration? What do you expect creatives to bring to the table to make your job easier? So I think it's about understanding each other's roles and understanding what the other person's problems are. As a creative, my problem is that I've got to sell to multiple layers. I got to sell through internal creative director, then the account guy, then the client. What if one of those is greased? It's a lot more pleasant experience. And how about account people wanting creatives that aren't prima donnas who think they know everything? Sometimes the client and the account person know better than you do. It's worth listening, considering that. So it's a lesson I probably wish someone had told me that 25 years ago. Do we have any other questions from the audience or any other comments that you guys wanted to add to any of that? My mom, by the way, just turned 80 this month and she's still painting, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, shout out moms. I'll just put
that
it in
is
the
so
chat.
cool.
No, I think Guillermo's point about that interview is right. But then also if you do sports, I mean, back in the day, like I used to look at people that played like team sports, and that's a straight up collaboration. That sounds really ridiculous, but I remember looking at that in terms of like, hey, they did this kind of sport as opposed to maybe like something that's more singular. And so I looked at that. And
hold on, let me add something to that, because I just asked a friend on the podcast that specific question. She played Division I soccer. And I asked her the question, how much has this informed you as a career? She said, it's everything. And the reason why, she said, is because when you're play soccer, football, on the same side.
I didn't want to correct you, but go ahead.
We are in the States, mate. She said, you're fighting for the same thing with people you might not get along with. That's what she said. She said, you have a goal together with people that wouldn't necessarily be your friends. So you figure out a way to work together, which I think is really profound.
I'm telling you, like any sports team, especially soccer, football, their personalities, being able to handle all of those and being in a heated situation, it's pretty much like the advertising industry, because you're meeting the really strong ones and who have the ball, they're running with it, but you want to be part of the game. So how are you going to get in there? And so there's so much comes from just those team sports. I think it's a really good.
How old are your kids, and what are they doing right now in the kitchen?
My dinner's ready.
I love 2020. This is so. All we need is a dog to be barking in one of our houses right now. We'd be
my neighbor's dogs will start singing. They're really loud.
So I want to add 2 more things, and maybe this will open up another conversation. Maybe another question will come out. And I want you guys who are really badasses on this panel to tell me if I'm saying the wrong thing to my students. So I define the side project in a portfolio as the thing that you're going to show that nobody asked you for, right? It's the thing that nobody asked you to do. And the other thing that I tell them is, and this is, I think, I'm super fascinated. As I was going to add this, when you were talking about the fact that you're 38 years old, which to me still sounds young, and you've got a lot of distractions in your life. You're running a creative group. You've got work on the table. You've got side projects going on. You've got multiple children. It's not that you can't stay creative, because you can stay creative. I think the thing that's difficult to do is to stay in touch with the generation below you, because the conveyor belt keeps moving, and the cultural reference points and the culture of a younger generation is something that becomes foreign without actively participating in it. That to me is much harder than staying creative. I'll stay creative till the day my heart stops beating, but you have to work at the other part. So the part that I'm super fascinated in, and as an anthropologist, amateur anthropologist, diagnosed with ADHD, but an amateur anthropologist, is the way that young people now have a curated existence. So the generation Gen Z curates their Instagram feeds, unlike my generation that would share almost overshare. They have a big event or a big weekend, and they're basically choosing their best image to share that indicates that entire experience. That's fine for Instagram. It's pretty deadly for side projects, because the fear of failure is so profound that no one wants to be messy. They want to do it right or not do it. And I encourage people to do it shitty, suck, be bad a lot of times. And then one of those times you're going to learn every time, but one of those times it's not going to suck so much. And that's going to be the thing that gets you hired. So am I on point? Because you nodded. Am I on point with that or no?
I think you've got a lot of, I think you're on point with that, Dan. I think for what I've seen, what I try to do is to make sure that you're still curious. So anyone that works on my team, curiosity is like the foundation of just being on my team. So, and it all comes into your talk tracks, how you're talking about the work, where you got the ideas, and really stressing that part of continue to explore and find and understand, you know. And I think that's kind of how I try to stay relevant.
Yeah, it's cool.
You know,
I'm curious, why are just the men? Why do the men on this panel the only ones that have hearing devices in our ears? The women don't. Why do we feel the need to have like a microphone and earpieces?
I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to be like a mic controller, I guess.
My kids are home. So.
But yeah,
curiosity for sure.
Yeah, curiosity is gonna keep that going.
Yeah.
And then,
it's that progress over perfection thing, you know, like just show the progress. But you know, I do think the biggest problem is people over edit themselves, right? So definitely progress over perfection. But as you evolve, cull it, you know, like eventually, you know, you're going to want to show great taste. Hopefully your side projects are all very, very cool. And, you know, somebody asks if a side project was used against someone. I mean, if it's really, really bad, like, I can't think of an example where somebody did something that was so bad that it was like, it worked against them. But I mean, I do actually remember something, but I don't want to talk about it.
That's funny. But when I said what I said about sucking, I just think you should have no expectations. And I'm thinking of my own side project, the podcast. When I did that, I just did it because I wanted to do it. I had no expectation. I mean, I've been doing it for 14 years and I've gotten decent at it, and I've had some really interesting people to talk to, and it's fun. And I think I've got that 10,000 hours. But for the first year, it was pretty terrible. And I didn't care. It's like, I'm just doing this because I have to make this. I just want to talk with the microphone on. So that's what I mean by that. I don't mean you need to show it all. You just need to not expect yourself to be good.
Totally.
I don't think you can have all crap.
No, I'm not suggesting that. No.
But here's my thing. I feel like if you don't go with your ideas and kind of try and see them through and keep creating, you lose confidence. And then that's a huge sniff like that. You just get sniffed out real quick. You're in interviews and people are like, nah, this guy's not really about this life. He's not ready to rock with us. And a lot of the times that muscle, if you keep doing it and you're confident, you're putting out crap, you're putting out good, you're putting out mid, you're putting out, like, that's the industry. Like, who goes into every creative review director and hits it out of the park straight away? Never happens. It's a bloody big journey, and you've got to pick yourself back up. So it's just getting, Dan, it's getting used to the shit and the haters and that not getting that many likes, and then maybe something else gets, like, you have to be able to be comfortable with all those emotions, in my opinion. You can't just be like, oh, I'm just getting patted on my back all the time. It's like, there's no friction there, so how are you going to how are you going to get to great,
That's the professional part of it. That's coming back. That's how you talk about athletes. That's how when athletes can come back for the next play. There's always a next play. Any more questions? Oh, so Guillermo, I think that the reaction was, I thought the reaction was when Ez was talking about curiosity. I don't know. I think I
was just cracking my neck.
Right, just cracking.
Yeah. I love curiosity all the way. Put as much as you want. I think half of my job is usually to curate you for whoever I'm presenting you to. So if I'm lucky enough and I have time, I'm going to piece together what I think you should focus on, or what someone should be looking at if I'm presenting you to an ECD or a CCO. They have like 3 minutes, and I'm saying, I need you to look at these 4 things, and here's like the ABCs of this person. So, but yes, I also believe you should kind of edit yourself too. Sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming. And if I need more, I'll ask for more. Like Lauren, I'll ask, hey, is there any more of this? Because this stuff works.
Yeah, I didn't mean to imply you should show your shit. Just expect it to suck and do it anyway. All right, so we do have some questions here from the audience. So if you could compel everyone you hire to read one thing, what would it be and why?
I I'll go right now. There's a book by Ryan Holiday called The Obstacle is the Way, and it's about stoicism. It's basically about resilience. And I think that that is something that people need in this business.
What's the author's name?
Ryan Holiday, and it's called The Obstacle is the Way. And it's just basically about how you take any challenge in life and turn it into an opportunity. And it's also available on Audible audiobook. It's great. The other thing I want to say, like, I've never been big on audiobooks, but the pandemic has taught me how to listen to audiobooks. And I've learned that actually painting while listening to audiobooks works for some reason. Like, it actually works. Walking, driving, house chores, that works too. But it's interesting to note that if you're drawing or painting, it actually pairs well with listening to audiobooks, which is like this cool, I just feel like I unlocked a superpower by figuring that out.
That's cool.
Highly recommend trying that.
All right. So question, I think we kind of answered this question. I'm going to read it anyway. I don't want to overlook anybody. Doesn't quantity play a part in side projects? Some of the best creatives I've seen put up 5 projects at once on social. So the one that sucks falls through. I guess.
I mean, quantity is all part of the prolificness and the iterative process. So, I mean, it's absolutely it's like a part of the creative process.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's going to get dinged for having too much.
No,
Okay.
I mean, I think especially on a platform like that, which is about just showing stuff, like on your portfolio, yes. Like, I think me and Oriel were talking about it, and you've got like 20 seconds to convince a recruiter or a creative director of like you're worthy for whatever they're looking for. You don't have that much time to like start getting all funky with it. So you should be able to get your point across. But I think in platforms, Tumblr is a wonderful platform. I think everyone should still keep going back there and using that and just put everything up there, you know. I used to be in motion graphics, and so with motion graphics, you're always exploring. You're always doing little tests, little kind of like, you know, little animations here, little animations there. And so putting all of those up, a lot of work has come from that little test. And then kind of like, oh yeah, I did this little thing. This might be cool for this project and stuff like that. So I think, I believe just keep exploring, put it all up somewhere, and it becomes a vault. No ideas done either. Put it in a vault. These are all my little tips I give to my students. And then, sorry, just on a book one, How to Be a Graphic Designer Without Losing Your Soul is an old ass book, but it changed my life. So that would be that's for graphic designers or art directors.
You answered another question someone asked you specifically. Can you speak to an example of when a side project or passion outside of work inspired a creative idea within your career? So that happens? That has happened?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I used to use, this is probably gonna date me. I used to use Cinema 3D Studio Max. I used to do a whole bunch of like tests on that back in the day. And that led to me figuring out how to kind of do procedural maps. And then it kind of led to me just going into like generative art. And then I did a whole bunch of projects, 2009, with like the 1.0 and stuff like that. It's all around generative art, and I kind of like went deep and started like exploring that whole thing. I was like really into it. So and that all came out from just a little me testing something in a program that I was messing around with it on a weekend.
That's so cool. All right, so Lauren wants to answer this one. Is it fair that agencies are judging books with side projects when advertising is a career that demands so many hours? How do you feel about creatives that are so passionate about advertising that they don't have the time, or they'd rather use their own time to keep working on proactive ideas for the agency?
Yeah, I'm so glad someone asked this, because I've also noticed on Fishbowl some people expressing frustration with talking about this when we are all under a lot of pressure right now. It's like, what is this? You know, now we're supposed to do extra credit, like have a second job. And I get that. Like, you know, I mean, look, if you don't have the time, you don't have the time. But I don't think life works that way all the time. I think that life happens to have like peaks and valleys. You know, I don't think anybody's expecting someone to like injure themselves by overworking themselves to do this. I think that, but I do think if you set the intention to make that space, and that you can eventually make it. I mean, we have creatives at Wieden. We have one that has 4 kids. He has his mother-in-law living with him now. He's got like a crazy situation. I won't get too much into it, but he's been making tons of campaigns, and he's been making albums on the side. And everybody's like, why is he so prolific right now? I just think that sometimes people go through these phases in life where even though it doesn't seem like you have the space, you find it because you have the energy. And I think that it's important to kind of set that intention to just make that space at some point. Yeah. And hopefully it becomes a habit, and hopefully it's something you can do all the time. But if all of your side project energy goes into agency work, well, that's okay. I mean, especially if your agency work is great, you know, like I don't think, I mean, we have hired creatives that only had professional work in their book. Like not every single creative we hire has side projects. It's, you just, you know, hopefully your agency work is really good.
Yeah, and I think not having pressure on yourself too. I mean, kind of coming back full circle to when, you know, Lauren asked me that years ago. And I think I had to find my way to the things that brought me joy and happiness. And, you know, sometimes when you're most busy, like I have 2 kids, a job at Google, crazy town, going through a divorce. And I'm like, I'm just found something else, you know, because it's like, I need it. I need it more than anything, just to stay sane and play, like eat a gummy, like watch some bad plastic surgery shows and make a wreath. Like, I don't know, like just, you know, whatever brings you joy and makes you, you know, happy at the end of the day, I think is great. And if you want to show it off, show it off. If you want to hide it forever, you don't have to show it. You know, I think there's a pressure to perform, which I think the comment sort of nods to. And I think you just have to block that out and go, I may never show this to anyone. Like this may just be for me. And that's fine too, you know? So I think it's a journey, and everyone, you know, needs to find their own path.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't know what. Some people ask me, why are you doing that? What's the point? It's like, I don't know yet. It may reveal itself at some point. I don't know. Someone asked, before everyone's portfolios went digital, back in the day of physical books, were side projects a thing?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yes.
No, maybe. Yeah. I don't know. But this is funny because I was talking about this recently. Sometimes the actual portfolio was the side project, because we would get sent the craziest objects or puzzles or codes, a scavenger hunt to figure out how to open the damn thing. So that, I like digital portfolios. I worked at McCann years ago, earlier on in my career, and there was this room that was just filled with tons and tons and tons of books. We were doing Xbox, we did Halo 3. It was just nonstop with the work that was coming in. And this was right about when things were transitioning to digital portfolios. And I still, to this day, my old boss there, we laugh about the times that people would knock on the door and thinking this was their chance to come back and get an interview, because they're coming to pick up that portfolio that they sent us 2 years ago, and we have to go in there and find it. Because it was really important to us, because we knew how expensive some of these things were to get back. But that's kind of my personal opinion. There was at one point where I felt like the portfolio itself was the side project. They're so expensive to make. I can't imagine doing that now.
They were really expensive to make. And I think that the self-promo piece that we would make, Guillermo, was sort of like the part that was outside the rules of a normal brief or normal client work. It's like, how are you going to promote yourself?
Self-promo. But now we just get like Venmo 10 cents and says, hey, notice me, or an Evite with your portfolio in it. So
and my daughter's in college, and they use Venmo as social media. So they basically are having conversations, and they're just moving a penny back and forth between friends constantly. That's right, Ez. That's exactly the right reaction. That's the exact.
What?
Yes, that is exactly the right reaction.
I feel old now. That makes no sense to me. But I can. Yeah. I remember back in the day because I studied fine art, so my thing was like that portfolio was the jam, and then it was making certain pieces which went beyond the realm. You know, I used to do pottery and fine and like fashion and stuff like that. So it was always like there was something else wonky. I've got all these pictures, but then check this out, and they would put it out. So it was analog.
I'd love to see that. Like, I'd love to see people's old portfolios,
Yeah.
like their first, you know, the crazy boxes, and it'd be so fun to see all that stuff.
We could have
There is a side project about that.
We should have a show at Wieden. Like, we have a whole like corridor of that stuff.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, my whole student book I still have my student book in my office at the circus. It's still sitting in there from when I graduated a long time ago. So I want to try to read this question, see if it makes sense. I think this is the final question that has been posted. I'm assuming this is from a student, but I'm not sure. How do we guarantee that we aren't communicating a side project as yet another thing on list of expectations and or pressures of getting a job, rather than encouraging creative people to just be creative? So much of what we do requires this level of outside appreciation or attention. I fear the immediate gratification may get in the way of real originality. So I think the question is about making this project another checkbox, right? Am I reading that properly?
Maybe. I mean, I don't want people to get too hung up on that. I think, we're talking about side projects because people are doing side projects. I think we're in a unique period of time where I thought this would be exciting, because I know that there's a lot of people with time on their hands. And I've spoken to a lot of students, like countless amount of students since March till now. And one of the things I told them is like, find a way to be creative. I want to make sure that when I am hiring again for your level, when I'm hiring juniors, which I think my agency has a responsibility to do as one of the largest ones, is that your book has changed, that you did something with your time, that there's something there that shows me that you weren't sitting on your hands. And that could be a side project, or that could be just you retooling one of your projects. You don't have to call it a COVID brief, but just changing it for the fact that the world is completely fucking different now, and what you had in there doesn't work. So I don't want people to feel anxiety of a side project. Sometimes, you know what, a well-written, beautiful bio that makes me just think of you as more than just a URL is sometimes it's just a really funny URL that can be that. I mean, I don't get too caught up on it, but the thing is, you're a whole person, and hopefully when we're talking or somewhere in your book, you're showing me the whole person and not just your ads, because that's what I'm looking for. And again, if you're going to a place where they don't care about that, then know that. And that's kind of what I'm here for. My responsibility when I'm meeting you or I'm interacting with a creative that's coming for a job with me or my agency, I should reflect the personality and the tone and the experience that you're going to have with me. So pay attention to that. And if some of that is side projects and it's amazing, that's great. So if some of it's just like, I need to have an ability to understand you, then that's what it is. And I hope that's helpful, because I don't want anybody to feel over anxious about this stuff, especially with everything that we're going through. Hopefully this is just here to help you about how those people who are doing side projects can shine, because we do. Lauren, we hire people that do not have side projects, absolutely 100% all the time, today, tomorrow.
Yep. Good answer. I would agree. It's not meant to stress people out. It's meant to inspire them, but it is, we just need to see people's talent. Show us what you got.
Yeah. And what do you do? What do you do relatively better than other people that might not show up in a rectangle? Maybe there's things that you do that are interesting that just doesn't show. So takes self-reflection, but it also takes just not giving a fuck. Like, that's the thing. I hate to say that. I mean, I hate to keep going back to that. I keep thinking about why my podcast exists, is because I just want to hear myself talk for a minute. So let's do that. Just let's go to the basement with a laptop and just have a conversation and see how it sounds. And it was bad and it got better. So just make stuff, just make stuff. So this question has nothing to do with this panel. And if you guys are willing to answer it, that's cool. If not, that's cool. Are there any clients that you hate seeing in student books or seeing too much of? Okay.
No, I cannot think of one.
I go beyond the logo and the client most of the time. I mean, that's another thing. I think the write-up is kind of also important.
Oh,
so,
God.
Right. So how you've described the work and what, you know, how you've gone into talking about the different components of it is super important to it coming across as relevant or not relevant, if you get what I'm saying. So I think sometimes we could kind of make it a side project, or you could just make, this is me, this is my work, this is what I'm about, and let's have your portfolio just be like, they get a good view of who you are, rather than, oh no, this is this is some weird thing I do on the side. No, this is all me. I prefer to see a book that's just like, yo, this is what I'm about, guys. And it's got, you can see the work if I need to jump into it, and it comes out down to how you lay it out and how you talk about the work and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
100%.
Such a good point. It's like, how good are you at articulating what you did? You know, that's important.
Yeah, and the role you played in it too, I think is super important, because you always see books and you just can't tell what someone actually contributed to something because it's part of a larger campaign usually. I'm sure the recruiters can feel me on this one, like just hard to tell. So, and I also love when people shout out other folks. Like, I think that's super important. And that also often leads me to other people too. So it's really, that's great. I mean, it will keep me focused on the person with their portfolio, but I'm like, oh, that person did that part of it. I want to look at that. So I love that.
I think for side projects, and this is another thing I've said often, I don't think you need to feel like you have to have a side project. I think you have to feel like you have to be in tune with your own inspirations. When you have an idea that's just a spark of a thought that, oh, I should just start taking pictures of trees changing. It's like, go do that, go make that, go start that Instagram now. You have to first be aware of those sparks, and then them and start making them. Because if you're a true creative, you're thinking of things all the time. You're just not making them all the time. So start making one or two of them. And don't put pressure on yourself to have something or have to have something great. Just put pressure on yourself to pay attention to your own brain. So thank you guys, man. I think we're wrapping up. I don't see questions. You guys who are viewing, if you have a question, throw it up there quickly, because we're about to let Ez go eat his dinner and turn his computer off.
No, wife's giving me that look right now.
Wasn't this supposed to go till 6:30?
No, but I'm here. I'm chilling. If there's any more questions, we can keep talking.
What's for dinner? What's for dinner, Ez?
It looks, it's in a big pot. I'm not sure.
All right, guys. So Ez Blaine, Lauren Ranke, Xanthe Wells, and Guillermo Perez, thank you so much. Josh, thank you so much for doing this, for inviting us to do this. And Sunita, I hope you guys have a great rest of the week. It's been an honor. I will apologize for talking so much about myself. It's been an honor and a pleasure doing this. I really appreciate the opportunity, and what a great panel. Thank you guys so much. And thank you guys on the other side of this for paying attention, for your questions, for participating and attending this panel. I hope this is an annual thing. This would be really fun to reunite. Until then, thanks everybody. Have an awesome rest of the week.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. You were a great moderator.
Yeah. Yes.
Thanks, Guillermo, Xanthe.
Bye, guys. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. See ya.